Brian Serra. Well, I don't know how I'm going to live up to that one. But, okay, so I will definitely give it my best shot. So, going to talk about refinancing because that's really big in the news right now. And when interest rates continue to drop, refinancing may be the right choice for a person's financial situation. Let's consider some advantages to refinancing with lower interest rates these days. My friend Bob's a 35-year-old homeowner, just had a new daughter. He's been in his home for the last 5 years, and he's in an interest-only adjustable rate mortgage at about 5.5%. And he's coming to the end of that, and his rate is about to adjust. So some of the things that he can have done is increase his cash flow. You know, Bob really wants to start saving money for his baby daughter's college account and pay off some of that credit card debt. A loan's monthly payment is typically will decrease with a lower interest rate, and then he can apply that savings to a 403b or to a credit card debt that he might have at like 15% interest compared to 2.875 or 3.25. Another thing that he can do is switch from that ARM to a fixed rate loan. With rates as low as they are right now, Bob can get that fixed rate that's going to be close to his current rate. And since he knows that he loves the neighborhood that he's in, he can now stay in that without worrying about his rate starting to go up in an adjustable rate mortgage every year and having to sell because he can no longer afford his payment. That's one thing that we do see in the mortgage industry coming down the road, is that we're going to see rates really start to increase in the next 2 or 3 years. Accessing equity. Another thing that Bob can do is he can get a loan to access the equity that he's already built in his home for a major home improvement or to buy an SUV to drive that baby girl around town in safety. Plus, the interest in a home loan is currently a tax deduction, so he can save there as well, as opposed to getting a new car loan where the interest is not a tax deduction. But of course, consult your tax advisor for that advice. You know, the other thing Bob's always concerned about is adding that time to his loan if he was to refinance to a new 30-year loan. So what I can do for him is offer him several different options to review, including a term that's not quite as common, like a 25-year loan, if he still wants to pay that loan off in 25 years in time for maybe an early retirement or something like that. So what I like to offer his friends is and clients is a comprehensive one-on-one consultation at a location of their choosing to review our options and programs. So talking to Bob, he tells me that several of his friends also told him that refinancing was expensive and that, you know, it's just not going to be worth his time. So another thing that I like to show my clients is what we call the break-even point. Break-even means that that is the point when the savings from your new loan equals the cost of getting a new loan. So for Bob, I figured out that if he refinanced now, he could get to a break-even point where his mortgage balance is the same as it is now by sometime in December of later this year. Sometimes it can take longer, though, if we're pulling cash out or if we're moving from a 15-year loan to a 30-year loan, of course. And then that's where we get questions about the financial basics, you know, things like, well, how do we determine an interest rate? Well, I base the rate on each client's individual credit scores, the type of program that we're going to be using for them, and also what the loan to value would be for the home. This is known as APY, which you'll hear in the news all the time, or your annual percentage yield. Another common definition that we use in the mortgage business is loan to value. That means what the value of the home is versus what the new mortgage amount would be, and usually the higher that number, the higher the rate. So a secret in the mortgage business is that we love homes that are usually 70% mortgage loan to value. That's our sweet spot for us. You know, 80% is going to be a little bit higher than 70%. Another question that we get all the time, because you'll see it on the disclosures, what's the difference between annual percentage yield that I just talked about versus annual percentage rate? The annual percentage rate is usually typically higher than what you see as the yield, because the rate also includes the ancillary items that people don't really think about, which is things like the cost of their escrow monthly for their taxes and insurance, plus the origination charges, or what's also known as closing cost. And of course, the dreaded origination charges. Everyone always thinks this is where the bank is doing the best they can to rip off clients. However, there are several factors that are included in there Things like the document preparation, underwriting costs, plus the attorney's fees and title searches all go into that. Try to minimize the bank's cost as much as possible. Usually it's not by charging for the interest rate chosen. A point is usually 1% of the loan amount charged to get a better rate. So what I try to look at doing is making sure that I can save the client the money that he needs by getting him into a better loan without trying to charge points. This way the client knows that he is getting the best deal possible for us. And with that money that he's saving, so one day when his little girl is in college and she needs money in case of an emergency for dear old dad, you know, and when you're in college, these emergencies happen all the time, and it's usually, Dad, I'm out of money and all I'm eating are ramen noodles, help. So by doing this, we're able to make sure that Bob has that money available if needed. So what I like to do is sit down with clients and friends in person if possible. I can work over the phone with folks and via email, but I want to make sure that I understand what the advantages of refinancing are with each person when we're trying to do a new loan. Are we helping Grandma save money? Are we helping Bob buy a new car for his family? Are we helping Bruce make sure that his girls don't starve in college? Or are we moving to a shorter term to make sure that a person can pay off their loan early to get to faster retirement? These are questions that I ask myself when I work with every person to make sure what I'm doing is right for the client and not right for the bank and my bottom line. I don't think that if I don't think a refinance makes sense, then I will let somebody know. So next time when we continue, I'll get into a little bit more detail about the different types of loan programs we have out there. And I'm Serra with Wells Fargo Home Mortgage. Thank you.